All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is your TLDR version for Paladin versus Priest guide in PvP. Classic World of Warcraft. All right, so the TLDR of Classic World of Warcraft Priest versus Paladin is basically you're in the middle of a mana war. And you're basically using Seal of Wisdom right before you auto attack the enemy priest to give you the maximum amount of chance to proc its effect before he ends up dispelling it off you. Don't be fooled by this number here. That's 18% of base mana. It actually comes out to 258 mana, whereas your Seal of Wisdom costs us somewhere around 200, right? If you don't know, and I just found this out recently, for years I've been telling everyone it's 2/3 proc chance. The seal itself, like the judgment has a 50% proc chance, but the seal itself is ppm. It's 15 ppm, which means 100% chance for every 4 seconds of swing time. What does this mean? This means if you're using a slow two-handed weapon against a priest, this kind of becomes ideal. It's a little bit more nuanced, but it definitely becomes very ideal. Because a 3.8 speed weapon is going to have something stupid like a 95% proc chance. So right before you're swinging into the enemy, you activate Seal of Wisdom. You have a 90% proc chance to get back, I think it's like a whopping like 90 mana from the thing, greatly reducing its cost. And the priest is basically forced to use 258 mana to purge it off of you, or they're going to lose a mana war against you over time. And that is the primary way that you kill them. Now there's some nuance to this. Has to do if the priest is bubbling and using mind flame, blah blah blah. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but we'll get to that at the end. The massive important TLDR of Paladin versus Shadow Priest specifically is it's costing them about half of their mana bar to mana burn away all of your mana bar as a Paladin. And it then costs them another third of their mana bar to actually be able to take your health bar from 100% to 0. Which means that they really need to have a mana potion, and they're really struggling for mana very quickly in this fight, especially if you're doing everything in your power to keep your mana high. But eventually they will run out of mana. You'll still have plenty of mana and resources to work with to keep yourself full life, and it's very easy to find a time on target opportunity to kill them with like PvP Trinket and Bubble and damn it, what is it? Mithril Insignia, right? So you can get a very long window to just beat on them horribly. Basically, their only option is to fear you and try to get a reset where they can go eat and drink for a bit before you're back on top of them again. Paladin, Skeleton, Pet summons absolutely screw over Shadow Priests. They're really easy to beat without skeleton summons. They become very easy to beat with skeleton summons. The only thing you have to watch out for is they do have a burst centered around silence and the use of grenade. But once they start getting low mana, that option is no longer viable anymore. So they can try to burst you out, but you just trade bubble for that, and you're chilling. Anyways, some things to keep in mind mana efficiency wise. The only real Shadow Priests only have basically 2 mana efficient spells. The first one is Mind Flay, and the other one is Shadow Word Pain. You may or may not have enough mana to get Shadow Word Pain off you with cleanses. If you do have enough mana, it is actually worth it to try to spend 4 cleanses or more to get Shadow Word Pain off of you, if you have the mana for that. Like, it's actually worth it. That's how mana efficient Shadow Word Pain is to get off of you. But Mind Flay is the big one. Mind Flay is super mana efficient for a Shadow Priest. It's their only real mana efficient spell that they actually have going. But it's a channel spell ability, which means if you're beating on them, it very rapidly loses its mana efficiency, because every auto attack you're basically reducing its duration by like a second. It really sucks. So rather than 3 ticks of the thing for 200 mana, he only gets like every auto attack reduces that by 1 tick basically. This is why I bring up that there's some nuance in whether you want to use a two-handed weapon or you want to use like a fast one-handed weapon with your Seal of Wisdom stuff. There are pros and cons to it. If he keeps mind flaying you, then you want to be like a bit of a faster weapon to punish. But if he's doing the I put Power Word Shield on and then I start Mind Flaying you so that you can't cause pushback, then things get a little bit more nuanced, which is how quickly can you pop the Power Word Shield and start getting at the Mind Flay. A lot of times, the best course of action from a mana perspective is to literally cast Freedom on yourself and run away in the opposite direction. This is a specific scenario where you are beating on the Shadow Priest. He puts up Power Word Shield. He starts Mind Flaying you. Consider freedoming yourself and running away in a straight line. Why? Well, if he wants to slow you down, he still has to purge freedom off you, which is not mana efficient at all. And very quickly, you can start outrunning Mind Flay nonsense and just time out the Power Word Shield. Like, you just literally wasting time under a Power Word Shield circumstances is the same as you doing damage to the Shadow Priest. Other things that are a big deal are a lot of people like using Shadow Resist when fighting a Shadow Priest. Literally don't bother. You're better off with either more DPS versus them or going MP5, because this is going to be a long fight either way, right? You are an absolute monster and destroyer of Shadow Priests if you learn to use Seal of Wisdom. And play around the Dispel magic, and specifically if you don't wear almost no Shadow Resist, literally no Shadow Resist gear whatsoever, and just go pure DPS gear. Shadow Priests will hate your guts. Holy crap, will they hate you. Anyways, I'm going to end the video here, and Deus Holt, boys.